person responding. My uncle's patient voice asking questions. But this time, I could hear something else in the background. A sound like furniture scraping, or maybe something heavier being dragged. Every time my uncle asked a question, there was a pause of maybe 3 seconds before the person responded. Not like they were thinking. Like there was a delay. Like someone was listening and then relaying information. By the 4th cassette, May 1987, I started noticing a pattern. The prayers were the same. The structure was identical, but the number of voices changed. On that one, I could hear at least 3 distinct voices overlapping during the Latin portions, all speaking at slightly different speeds, creating this nauseating effect where the words seemed to pile on top of each other. I took a break. This was clearly documentation of exorcisms, and while I understood the theological framework, my uncle was a priest after all. There was something deeply unsettling about listening to someone else's crisis, someone else's suffering, preserved on tape like a medical recording. But I kept going. The tapes from June through August of that year all came from St. Catherine's as well. Different dates, different voices, but the same methodical approach from my uncle. By June, I noticed he'd started asking different questions. Not just what is your name, but very specific inquiries. How long have you been present? What was your name before you took flesh? What are you afraid of? And the responses, they changed too. They became less defensive, less theatrical. The voices just answered, flatly, like they were being interviewed. I got through 9 of the 12 tapes in 2 days. I wasn't sleeping well. Not because they were frightening exactly. They were methodical and boring in many ways. But there was something accumulating. Something I couldn't quite articulate. It was the consistency of it. The sheer routine. The 10th tape was dated December 1987, a 7-month jump. The label was different. Instead of St. Catherine's, it just said private. And the voice on it wasn't coming from a church. I could hear wind, or maybe an air conditioning unit, something constant and metallic in the background. When my uncle began speaking, his voice was different too. Not less calm, but cautious, like he was choosing every word very carefully. This is the 10th session, he said. The subject has been resistant to traditional intervention. We're attempting a modified approach. The other voice, and I'm certain now it was a woman, though something about the timbre seemed wrong, began speaking without being prompted. She spoke in a measured way, almost like she was reading from a script. I understand the nature of your concern, she said, and I appreciate the efforts you've made, but you should know that this won't end the way you hope. My uncle didn't respond immediately. I could hear papers rustling, the sound of him writing something down. Why do you say that? He finally asked. Because I'm not what you think I am, the woman said. I'm not a demon. I'm not a separate entity. I was never separate, and removing me won't solve anything, Father. It will only create a problem you don't understand. The rest of that tape was quiet. My uncle asked her more questions, but she didn't answer. She just breathed, steady and even, for the remaining 10 minutes of the recording. I didn't sleep that night. The 11th tape was dated January 1988. My uncle's voice was tired now. Actually tired. I'd never heard that in his voice before. He sounded like he'd aged 10 years in 1 month. She hasn't spoken in 3 sessions, he said, speaking to himself or to whoever was recording. The family is requesting I stop. They're saying it's not helping. They're right. It's not helping. There was silence. Then the woman's voice, quiet and almost gentle. Let me go, Father. I can't, my uncle said. Then we'll both stay, the woman said. That's the way this works. You can't exorcise what was never separate. The 12th tape was the last one, dated March 1988. It was the longest. It went on for nearly 40 minutes, which was unusual. Most of the others ran between 15 and 25 minutes. On this one, my uncle wasn't speaking in a church or a private location. He was outside. I could hear actual traffic in the distance, birds, the ambient sound of a city morning. He was sitting by himself, and he was reading something aloud. Passages from scripture, but not in order. He'd read a few verses from Matthew, then jumped to job, then to Psalms. His voice had a different quality now, not defeated, but accepting, like he was reciting something he'd committed to memory years ago. I kept looking for something to cast out, he said, his voice cracking slightly. But the lesson here is that sometimes the weight we carry isn't an invader. Sometimes it's a part of us we haven't learned to live with yet. And no amount of prayer changes that. Prayer just teaches us how to carry it differently. He sat in silence for a long time. The recording kept going, just the sound of the city, the cars, the birds. Then, very quietly, he said something I wasn't expecting. I hope she's okay. I hope she's at peace now. The tape ended. I've listened to all 12 cassettes 3 times since that week. I've done some research. There's no record of my uncle performing exorcisms. St. Catherine's doesn't have documentation of him doing anything like that. The diocese has no files. He never reported these sessions to anyone in the church hierarchy. I asked my dad about it once casually. He said Uncle Michael had always been private, that he kept his pastoral work close to his chest. But he also said something else. He said that in the last decade of my uncle's life, he seemed different. More patient, less certain about things. Like he'd learned something that had changed his worldview. I still have those tapes. I don't listen to them anymore. But sometimes I think about what my uncle said on that last recording, sitting outside in the morning light, about weight we carry, about learning to live with things instead of trying to cast them out. I think he was trying to tell someone, maybe himself, maybe me, that some problems don't have solutions. They just have acceptance. And I'm still not sure which terrifies me more.